Server image, which says it's covering an area about 5 miles southwest of Ellensburg, Washington. Does that sound right?
That's about the neck of the woods we're talking about.
Well, in this neck of the woods, there's one great big white blotted out area where I presume were I to be able to see it, and it does look like a very interesting area, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There would be Mel's Hole somewhere there, huh?
Yeah, that I think that blotch over there covers like a 4 mile by 8 mile area.
My goodness.
But
what a blotch.
Isn't that something?
Yes, isn't
my
that?
nephew told me about that, and I said, well, you son of a gun.
Well, he's right. We've got it up on the website right now. People can go take a look for themselves. So now we have pinned down, better than ever before, the area where Mel's Hole actually is. Thank you, Mel. That's damn good research.
By the way, not too far from there on the highway that goes to Yakima, I think it's 84 or 85.
Yes.
There's a rest stop. And I had a lot of reports from a lot of people that if they look towards the Monastache, they will see the black beam of light. They have seen it. I have had truckers, I've had people in town say, that's where I was. I was looking towards it, and I saw the flash of black light.
Well, now, maybe my audience is not aware, but a television crew went up to Ellensburg after we did the last program and researched this. And I'll be doggone, they didn't find the hole, but they did find near the area where you were talking about a lot of military boot prints and all kinds of information that would indicate the military, in fact, had been there or was there.
Oh, they would have probably seen a lot of yellow gear tread marks in the ground.
Yep.
You name it, it was there. But my nephew coughed that little piece of information up for me, and I thought I'd pass that along to our listeners.
Well, wait till people get a load of this.
And they can ask, why is it that pretty innocuous? I mean, from all intents and purposes, there's not a military base right there.
Well, who knows?
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Not an obvious one.
Very close to my property there was the Yakima firing range, and I will tell you that they have expanded the area of the Yakima firing range and also expanded the fly zone over it. Correspondingly.
Isn't this also interesting?
It's all there.
Well, all right. Earlier in the program, before you got on, Mel, somebody fast blasted me, and I consider this a really good question.
Okay.
It is, what are the odds of any single one person finding two apparently bottomless or endless holes in one lifetime? The odds against that have got to be gazillions to one. But then
Oh yeah, in fact, so you can't even consider odds,
That's right. So outlandish. And by the way, one other thing before we even get to that, Richard Hoagland called at the top of the hour and said, you know what, Art, you're right. Normal time travel could not explain what he just talked about, but there is one thing that could,
and that is
a parallel universe. That is to say, a universe in which similar things occurred, but with very different outcomes. And a lot of our best scientific minds now, Mel, are saying that, indeed, that could very well be the case. There could be a universe in which the Nazis won the war. And so there could be a universe in which the dime that you came to be in possession of on that property.
So the B on it might have stood for Berlin.
There you go. Oh, my God, Berlin. B, I forgot about that. All right, listen. Anyway.
So there we are, and The only thing, a few things I will add to this, just to get us current, okay?
Yes.
Is that I had reports from some of my trucker buddies. One said he delivered a huge quantity of fiber optic cable.
Really?
To a warehouse in Ellensburg. Now, okay, I don't know. We're talking a huge quantity of to a warehouse.
Now, let's see, what might they want to do with fiber optics?
But he told me that all the guys that were there, that were in the office there and at the warehouse where he had to unload this stuff, they were all Israelis.
What?
They were all Israelis.
Now, it's really going to tick me off if the Israelis have our hole.
Well, this is what he told me.
I mean, that is our hole. It's a U.S. hole.
It's on our land here.
That's right.
But he said that the people that took delivery of that
were Israelis.
Now, I talked with another trucker. I love the truckers. The truckers are...
I can tell.
I love them.
They're good guys, I know.
Oh, they're the best in the world.
They are. They actually are.
Delivered, apparently, to the same warehouse, a number of crated instruments, large crated instruments from Lawrence Livermore Laboratory.
Oh, gee.
California, ended up in a warehouse facility in Ellensburg. So that's pretty much where I am with Ellensburg. I told you about the coin. I told you about the deliveries.
Yes.
Pretty much up to date.
Now it suddenly brings the whole belt buckle thing down in San Fran into focus. My God, that's incredible, Mel. That's incredible.
I mean, you know, it's funny, Art. You look at some things and you don't put two and two. You say it's a dime. I mean, I told you about it. It's a 1943 Roosevelt dime.
Yeah.
What the heck? That's a dime. What are you, going boo-hoo about your dime? Until you realize,
well,
it was alive.
It finally all drove it home to me. All right.
Again, that was me too. I had these things in my hand. I did little soldering around them and stuff. I mean,
sure.
So don't feel bad.
All right. Now let in view of time here.
Okay. Let's move this forward.
Let's. You connected, obviously, because I guess of the plants that you grow, the herbs and all the rest of it, with Native Americans, right?
Yeah. And all I'm going to tell you about them, I don't want to give the name of the tribe because I don't want a bunch of people running down to me there. These are very poor people. As you know, a lot of the Indians on the reservation are very poor people. Now,
this is in Nevada, right?
In Nevada.
Okay. Here in my state.
And there are tribes up there that...
Well, because of the kind of work you did, the metallic work you did in belt buckles and the herbs you grow, I can easily understand the connection you would have with some Native Americans. So you connected with these Native Americans.
Well, they connected with me. They actually contacted me through email.
Oh.
And said, look, would you be interested in coming down and discussing with us, what you're doing, the research that you're doing, and, talk about, I have believe me, Art, I have no commercial interest in this at all, but they do.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay?
Fine.
There's not going to be a patented bottle of Mel's magic elixir here, okay?
Okay, fine.
This is their thing. But we swapped notes, we talked around a lot, and there are some specific...
they knew who you were because of my program and
of the show.
Press coverage, and okay.
So I went down there, and this was in early September of last year.
Oh, okay.
So this was actually before 9/11.
Right.
Okay, but shortly before that.
Early September.
I was pretty much incommunicado basically during that whole time, and strangely enough, so a lot of this stuff is news to me.
All right.
So, we're over there, and, they had done a lot of good work. They had cataloged a lot of plants. We talked plants. I'm sure all this plant stuff is boring. And I asked them if they knew, and I told them, I said the plants that seemed to work the best were the plants that I had been growing on my property, and I described to them which ones they were. And
this was the hole near Washington, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah. And
so obviously you unraveled the story of the hole to them.
Well, they were aware. They were
all right.
Too.
All right.
And so I says, can you, in your gathering and in your research and your studies, have you found this specific variety? And I said, because this was the variety that grew buy the property. And that's where I ended up at the second hole, is because they took me directly to, not for the hole in particular.
Well, then it's obvious to me that they knew your reputation.
Right.
They knew the whole story of the hole, and the real motivation for inviting you down there, aside from the herbs and the rest of it, was that they had a hole of their own.
Well, the hole itself, and we're going to get into the hole, I guess, deeply, for lack of a better term, but...
now you're guilty.
I'm sorry, Art. But basically, the hole is not on their property.
Okay.
I mean, basically their connection, to get from the reservation or where the Indians are to the hole is they know where it is. But
you're telling me this hole is in my state?
In the state of Nevada.
In the state of, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you looked at the picture of where the Monastash is in Washington, and
right,
try to find similar pictures in Nevada, you probably find it there too.
We have very similar looking terrain.
It really is. That's why I love the high desert. That's my kind of land. So I'm up there, and this land is used by members of the Basque, Basque community.
All right.
The Basque are interesting people, and they basically came out to your state and a couple of other states, basically for raising sheep, of all things.
Okay.
And so they are shepherds, and so I am introduced to what is now the second hole.
All right. Tell me about this. I mean, they took you to it.
They took me there. I did not go all the way up to the hole, but there was conversations between the Native Americans and the Basque and blah blah blah, and they basically agreed that everything was as it should be. That I wasn't from CNN or the FBI or the CIA or whatever.
Right.
And so I went there, and I got to see the hole. Now,
all right. What's there?
What it is that if you walking up to it, and first of all, this is in a fairly pristine area, okay? So there's like no real signs of civilization around there. There's no roads leading into it. There's no telephone wires, nothing like that. I mean, we're talking pristine area.
Right.
No signs of, except for their habitation, no signs of habitation.
Gotcha.
Okay, you're walking up to it, and what you see sticking out of the ground is the hole itself is the same dimension as the one in Ellensburg. It's
wow.
Wide.
9 feet in diameter?
9 feet in diameter. This one had a metal collar around it.
A metal collar?
Solid metal collar.
That rose from
about 2 feet high and about 2 feet deep. Metal collar, and it had some notches in it that you could look like, in my estimation, you could mate something with it, to lock it in place. And it could possibly have been like a locking collar.
You mean something was, in other words, it looked like something intended to lock to it from above?
Exactly. Something would be lowered onto it and locked into place.
Okay.
But the Basque tell me that this property, or this hole here, has been there for all of their experience, and they have been there since the 1800s. Just the way it is, but the same hole. On not their land. They don't own this land, Art. This is probably U.S. government land.
Well, the majority of land here in Nevada is BLM.
Well, exactly.
Bureau of Land Management.
It's not. They don't own it. They use the land. They graze sheep, blah, 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 that sort of thing.
And how long have they known of this hole? Do you know?
Well, again, the one fellow I know says he knew this from when he was a young man, and he was well into his late 80s. And so he knew it from probably for the last 70 years.
All right, because of what you did, we know a lot, at least quite a bit about your hole up in near Ellensburg. But
yes.
This hole, what do we know about this hole other than its diameter?
It's the diameter, and apparently it is lined with that same metal as far as you can see.
You're kidding.
It is solidly lined as far as you can see.
So this is not a natural hole by any stretch.
There's nothing natural about this hole at all. Nothing.
Can you tell what kind of metal it is?
No, but I'll tell you one thing, and it was kind of an accident. But I dropped the box wrench on it.
Right.
On the ledge.
Yes.
Made no noise.
No noise.
Noise whatsoever. You know, you drop a box wrench on a metal floor.
Clank.
Clank. Nothing. You know, we repeat the experiment. Clank. Nothing. It makes no... You could pound on that thing with a sledgehammer, and it won't make noise. Okay?
Oh, Mel.
This is what I'm telling you about right now, is that this one here is so different from the one that I had in Ellensburg. Like, totally different. Mostly because of this metal around it. But
well, when you touch the metal, does it feel metallic? Is it cold as metal would...
Oh, this wow. This is interesting because a lot of the fellows that are there, and there was 5 of us at, you know, towards the end of it, and it started with 2 and we ended up with 5. But what they say, when they're up there, even in the wintertime, they can like put their tent and sleeping bag right up against it, keep them nice and warm.
Warm?
Yes. It keeps them nice and warm, but it is not hot. You know, it's not like, you know, like a fire hot. But the metal itself over there...
radiates?
I don't even know how to describe it there.
In other words, if you touch it with your hand, is it hot, or does it just produce radiant heat that...
There is heat around it, but it itself is not hot. How does that sound?
This is really weird, Mel.
So they are, you know, that's what, you know, that's the thing there. And so we have this, you know, hole in there. And again, from my understanding... They have known about that hole up there. It's it has been known since the 1800s. It has been known exactly the way it is. I can tell you that some of the people that I talked with towards the end of everything on my way back said it was a spiritual site for them up there. I asked the native...
Spiritual site, all right. Mel, so you've got this metal around the hole, about, you said, 1 foot or 2 high.
2 feet high, 2 feet wide.
High, and 2 feet wide, and the hole is 9 feet in diameter, and as far as you can see, the metal continues down. This is no geographic hole. This is no volcano vent, or if it is, it's been modified by somebody.
Well, if it's been modified, I'm going to say long before the technology that we know of today.
To do it. Mm-hmm. And it looks like there was something that should be latching to this hole from above. I'm going to call the thing on top of collar, okay? And that's we'll call it the collar, all right.
And it looked like there's notches in it, and it looked like you could lock something into place or line something up in it.
Gotcha.
It didn't move. I mean, the whole thing was solid. It's solid metal. But there are places where there are notches in it, and something is meant to orient, my opinion.
All right. What did the Basques or the Native Americans tell you about what they knew of the depth of this hole? In other words, I'm sure they've thrown things into it or have experimented with trying to find out how deep it is or something, right?
Well, actually, they didn't do anything with lowering line it or anything to it, but they did relate to me the same phenomenons as that I had described. One, the fear of animals going by it. Their dogs won't do it. Nothing. They have nothing to do with it there. They, too, have spoken of the black beam. They've spoken of that.
What do you mean black beam?
From time to time, black beam, this is a contradiction, but a black beam of light, okay, comes from the hole. It lasts for a very short time, but it just goes directly up into the sky.
And when you look at it, it looks like a black beam. In other words, as opposed to a lighted sky. If
you had a flashlight and it was capable of throwing off a black, not a black light like we used to have back in the 60s, you know, with all that stuff, but black, solid black.
Yeah, gotcha.
That's what, there's no way to describe it. There's no... I am one of the few people that I've had other people tell me about it. I have never personally witnessed the black beam.
You did perform some experiments on this hole, didn't you?
Okay, let me talk about the first one. And I'm not a scientist. I'm kind of a researcher. But the first thing that we did is we had a whole bunch of Safeway or 7-Eleven bags of ice.
Uh-huh.
You know, the kind that you buy, and we had a couple bags of that. So we had put one in a bucket on the surface, and we lowered another bucket of ice into the hole, 1,500 feet.
1,500 feet?
Yeah, we had access to a nice winch and about that much. We only had 1,500 feet of line, and that's what we...
What was the idea of lowering ice into it?
Well, first of all, my curiosity is that I wanted to know, was it hot or cold down there?
Okay.
So we basically waited for the ice to melt about halfway on the surface, and we would hoist up the...
I see. So your ice, you had test ice on the surface.
Yeah.
To see how that was melting. I got you.
Of your garden variety convenience store ice,
right.
That you buy anywhere, and nothing magic about it or anything like that.
Right.
And so we lowered it down there. We waited for the ice to melt on the surface there, and it got about half melty, So it was sitting in a bowl of in a bucket of water with a few bits of ice floating around. We brought it up. And the ice in the bucket did not melt.
It didn't melt?
It was not melted. So we said, this was on...
No, wait a minute. Now, the hole had been radiating, in some strange way, heat enough that people would camp by it.
Yeah, they did that in the wintertime.
But it doesn't melt ice?
It didn't melt the ice. It came up there. We looked in the bucket. We had ice cubes in there.
Did anything come back up with the ice cubes?
We had ice cubes. I reach in the bucket at ice cube. I pick one up there.
So in other words, nothing else, dirt, water, anything else?
No, the stuff appeared pretty much the way we had sent it down, with the exception of when I put my hand in the ice wasn't cold. Felt like ice.
What?
Wasn't cold. This is what I'm saying. It wasn't cold. You pick up a piece of ice, you put it in your hand.
It's cold.
It melts, and it's cold. In fact, it makes you cold by melting. That's how cold works.
Right.
Well, it didn't. It wasn't cold, and in the hand, it didn't melt.
So then, now they're more like blocks of glass.
Yeah, I would say so. But we said, okay, what we'll do here is we'll take this bucket and we'll stick it on the fire. A little place to cook there. Stick
the bucket with the unmelted ice?
Unmelted ice.
You put on a fire?
We put it on, like, our cooking fire there.
Okay.
We had a little table and cooking area and stuff over there. And so we put it on there, and the ice catches fire.
What?
The cubes catch fire. And I guess maybe catching fire might be the wrong word. The ice, we took it off the fire right away. So we set it on the dirt. And the stuff in the bucket was still burning. And again, burning might not be the right thing. It was giving off heat.
Was there a flame?
It was not so much a flame as a kind of have you ever used a gas stove?
Sure.
Okay. It was like the barest turning a gas stove on. It was glowing like that last flicker before you turn it off completely. That's what it was like around all the cubes. And you could knock the cubes around and separate them, and each one of them, would exhibit the same properties.
Holy smokes!
I will tell you that this bucket, well, some of the bucket there is still sitting there, as far as I know today, still doing what it was doing the day we put it into the ground and brought it up. So this was September, and this is January now. That's how long it's been doing what I call burning. One guy took some of the stuff home. He put it in his wood stove, and he's got a cabin out there, and it gets damn cold where he is, and the thing has been keeping his place warm.
Yeah, northern Nevada is very cold.
Oh,
So this is like giving off eternal heat. I'm not sure I've got this right.
It makes it look.
It was neutral when it came out of the well. It was neutral.
In other words, we put it on the fire, and it appeared. Again, my terminology. This is very bad because
it acted like a fuel.
It will look like if I understand combustion, it was like it was doing combustion in a different way than we would attribute combustion to, mixing air with fuel and creating heat and flame. But it was doing kind of the same thing, is what I'd like to say. And it's been burning like that since, again, burning is the wrong word, but that's all I got for it. I don't know how to describe this process since early September. And again, a guy he took about a coffee can's worth of this stuff and took it home and put it in his wood stove in his cabin. No wood in there.
Yes.
And the thing has been going since then. Now, we have tried this experiment of just the lowering of the bucket, because we figure we'd like to have a lot of this stuff here.
Oh, of course.
And sometimes we would go down there and we would get nothing. Sometimes we would get melted. Sometimes, not melted but real ice. But every so often, this process duplicates itself. So we come up with the same thing, but it isn't like, every time you throw, you lower a bucket full of stuff there that
it's going to happen every time.
It doesn't happen every single time.
A quarter of the time? An eighth of the time?
I'd say 1 out of 3 times.
1 out of 3.
One out of 3, and I don't know if it was the amount of time down there.
Do you possess any of this yourself?
I took nothing with me, Art. I would not. What is the word? This is theirs for now. Let's say for now, okay?
What about noise? At any point, did it make any noise?
No, we never during this process that we went through. It made no noise at all. It made no noise, and we did not notice anything from the surface, anything particularly unusual, okay, at all. I mean, there was, it just, but...
Were there any markings on this metal that were discernible? In other words, anything marked or scratched in English or any other language?
Well, we went at it with a hacksaw blade. You couldn't hacksaw it.
You couldn't even dent it?
No. The metal itself, from what I can determine, and I mean, normally if you have a metal thing that's hollow, you could tap on it, and you would hear that it's hollow.
Right.
But with this thing here, if you're beating on it with like a tire iron,
no
it doesn't
noise.
make any noise. That doesn't give you a gauge as to whether it's hollow or not.
So it was absorbing probably all noise. I mean, there would have...
Maybe just sucking it up. Maybe it radiated into the ground. I have no idea. That's not my area of expertise. All I know is what I could see with my own eyes, and hopefully by the end of tonight, maybe somebody will have some
answer.
Yes.
What did the locals believe about this hole?
Well,
I mean, you literally just got back from Nevada, tonight or yesterday?
Oh, no, this last week. I got home the night that you did the show as the repeat.
That's right. You told me. Okay.
And so it was one of those, it was probably Richard Hoagland say, one of those synchronous moments there where, I mean, I'm talking to this guy, and he's talking to Mel Waters, and in the truck. And then I hear myself, and it's like, hey. I mean, so it was just too much, and so I had to get in touch with you.
Okay, well, again, what did these locals, what was the lore that they told you about the hole? One of the older Basque men that I talked to, and this was practically as I was heading out of town, told me there was a very, to him, he felt it was a very spiritual place, but he knew the thing from his youth, that it was there exactly the way it is. And he was in his late 80s, so I'm assuming he's known it for 70 years. So he's known it at least from the 30s, and from what he tells me, it's been there as long as the Basque had been in that part of the country, and that goes well into the 1800s. It has existed like that. To be honest, the Native Americans that I talked to were aware of it, but they did not want to deal with it. They did not want to interact with it. Is that a good word? That's a word.
All they would do is pick some of the the various plants that I needed that were in the general vicinity of it, because I wanted very specific ones that I had recommended, and they knew of them.
All right. Are they now growing some of these plants in the vicinity of this hole?
Well, some of those plants are there. They appear to be indigenous to the area, so they did harvest some, early on in the season there.
So then again, you saw similar vegetation around this hole to the one in Washington.
Well, that's why I asked them for,
Gotcha.
If they knew, I described to them what it was, and the shape of the things and, the size of the various, and they said, oh yeah, we know of that there, but in terms of why the entree, I assume that the Native Americans knew about this all along there. And I assume that they must have had some conversation with the Basque there that, would this be okay? Are you interested in this guy? Blah, whatever. And apparently there was no objection, so I have access to this property.
Well,
but I want to respect my access, okay?
What about an experiment, Mel, similar to the one you did in Washington, lowering some sort of line, or better yet, some sort of camera on the end of a line, or
we didn't do that between the Basque and the Native Americans and me. We don't have too many nickels to rub together, but I will tell you what we did do. One of the Basque kind of a wise acres, he wanted to lower some marijuana into the hole and see if it would improve its smokability.
So then it would be a pothole, right?
Well, I guess it could be. I hadn't thought of it that way, but he wanted to do that, and one guy wanted to be lowered into the hole himself.
Well, now you see, in the hour preceding your
I heard that.
Oh, did you? Two people who would actually like to be lowered into such a hole. Now I know that you believed in the powers of the hole in Washington to the degree that in the original agreement, now voided, I suppose, you were to be, upon your death, buried by being dropped into the hole, right?
How I wanted my remains to be dealt with, yes.
Now, that apparently is not going to happen because of subsequent events.
Oh, I've got another place to go now.
Would you really want...
Nevada.
Yes, would you really want to be... I suppose, with some ceremony, dropped into the hole?
Hey, just give me a decent... I don't know what it is when you put someone in a hole. Is that interned or...
I don't know what you'd call that.
I don't know either. But one of these guys wanted to go into... literally, he wanted to be lowered into the hole. He wanted to, be put in a gondola or something and lowered, from the winch into the hole and go down as far as we had line, which again was 1,500 feet.
I can assure you, Mel, we could get sponsors for you who would get you all the line you need.
Hey, look, we talked them out of going into the hole because we said, look, see what it did to the ice?
That's a good point.
It says, we sent a bucket of ice down into this hole, and it's sitting up there on the surface burning. I mean, what are you made out of mostly?
Water.
Water. What's going to happen to a human being down there? What properties are going on over there? They had, but I mean, the Basque are, as a race, are fearless. When the Moors invaded Spain, they refused to go into Basque country.
Well, okay, what did this man say his motivation was for wanting to go into the hole? I mean, obviously...
He was just a young, headstrong, in his probably late 20s, early 30s fellow that wanted to go into it. He said, this is going to be a great adventure. I want to go in here. I want to see what's going on. But he wasn't thinking with his brain.
Well, there are obviously a lot of people like that, Mel, because I had two of them in the first hour of the program, and they said they would love to be lowered into such a hole. This one, if anything, this one sounds more attractive.
Well, we determined to do, and I'm ashamed to admit it, is that we decided to lower a sheep.
Really?
To the hole.
Really?
A living sheep.
You did?
Into the hole. We had a crate, the sheep could fit into that we could attach the cables to, and we're going to take the sheep, stick them in the grate, and then lower them down, to the 1,500-foot level, because that's all we had.
Like the ice.
Yeah, that's all we had. We had enough line basically to go that far, and it was stout enough to handle. I'm not no sheep guy, but I could pick up a sheep, so it must weigh about 120, 150 pounds. Yeah. Well, so I guess about the size of a small human, wouldn't you say?
I would, 150 pounds, you said?
For sheep.
Yeah, I would say that's about size.
I'm no sheep expert, but, if I had to say how much does that sheep look like a weigh, about 150, 125 pounds. Anyway,
are you telling me you did this?
I'm telling you that we, first...
All right, I'll tell you what. Don't say a word. Good place to hang everybody up.